Morning, everybody. We've just been in here, or the lady of the house has, again, in the strawberry bed, and collected around about 2 kilos of strawberries. So that's a great start to our day. Now, in my latest video, or the last video that I put up, I went through a list of the jobs I wanted to try and achieve this week, which started yesterday, and I managed to get a few little bits and pieces done. Transplanted some cauliflowers, did a bit of weeding, and then the rain came and it really threw it down big time. And it's highlighted a bit of a problem that I've got here, which is this biodiversity, and it's becoming so tall now. I'm going to have to start to maintain it a little bit because the rain certainly bashed it down quite considerably. Yeah, I mean, you can see that there. And it's beginning to take over. So it needs, it's not just about letting things grow. It needs a bit of maintenance to be effective. And so that leads me on to the other project that I mentioned in the previous video, which is to do with the compost. So let's go around and see what I need to get done there. Now, I mentioned I needed to turn it, which I do on average twice a year. And so what I've started to do is I've done it. I've taken off the roof, and this is revealed my compost that is about 9 months old. And if we get close up, you can see I've got some fungal growth there. It's looking pretty healthy, especially as you go down. It's holding a lot of its moisture. And so now that I've done that, the idea is I've got to build around to this side here. Got a pallet there to go. It's going to be a single bay, this one, not a double. So that's going to go there. A couple to come across here. And then I'm going to turn this bay into this new section, proper roof on. And then that bay will be clear. Maybe with the help of Rada. Maybe not. I don't know. And I'll then be able to turn this into this section here. And then coming back to the biodiversity side of things, as I start cutting this down, or sections of it down, I can be adding it to these bays. So that's the plan. So I better crack on with it. We'll come back later on and see how I've got on. Okay, so I've got my 3 pallets up. One there, and the other one here. I'll stand back a little bit and you can see the difference in the size. So like I say, what I'm going to be doing is turning this, which is almost complete. It's not perfect compost you find in a bag, and homemade compost will never be like that. So don't be disillusioned. So like I say, the idea is to move this across into here. And then if I stand back a little bit more, it needs a bit of straightening up, but that's not so bad. It's going to do the job, and that's all we're looking for. Nothing fancy. Recycle as much of the materials I have here as I possibly can. That's all about allotment clearing, isn't it? If you can recycle and reuse things and upcycle stuff, it's the way forward. It's the best way, really, I think. It's more of a challenge. It makes you think rather than going to a store and buying the solution. So how have I done it? As with all the other bays, you can see there they're wired in. So we've wired that corner there, and I've wired these 2 here. But just to make sure, I've put a screw through this one into this pallet here. So these 2 are connected on the corner. And then I've also done a cross brace, if you like, with a piece of wood inside the slats of the pallets, if you like, just to hold it in place, just to keep it a bit more secure. Now, once it's filled, I'll put a slot across the front just to hold it more in place until it's ready to be used. So let's get on with turning it in there. I better find my pitchfork. Okay, so let's see what this is like. There's the pitchfork. So all we're literally doing is dropping it into there. I'm going to need to clear these weeds. Sometimes you get a bit of sticks There, no, you don't really want them, but what we're looking at is a nice, soft, light texture. And what I do when I'm doing this is I'm looking through for not life of brine, activity, if you like, fungi. That's the kind of thing we want to be seeing. Now I'm doing this from the front edge of this bay because obviously if I want to turn it, I don't want to be taking it all from the bottom, do I? And putting it in this new base here. And you'll see also that the top layer is fairly dry. So we want that at the bottom of the new base, if you like, so they can start getting a bit more moisture in them. And continue to ripen. Now, I am beginning to see a little bit of fungal growth. Sounds like I should go to a doctor. Anyhow, I'm also feeling for the weight of each load I get off the pitchfork, because if it's too heavy, it's telling me that it's too wet. So I want to make sure that my moisture levels are right. So I'll continue doing this. And you can join me as I go through it all. It's looking good. Let's get the camera so you get a better idea. So there's the top layer. Sorry about my shadow, but I'm working in the sun. That's never a good idea, is it, working in the sun? There's a bit of beetle activity in here. This is what's got to come out. It's going to take me some time. I'm going to get hot. But let's crack on. Well, I'm getting there. As you can see, we're getting down and the new bay is filling up. But what I've noticed is that as I'm coming into the middle of this pile, it's quite dry. The edges, as you can see, are quite moist. But in the centre, it's dry, very dry. It needs some moisture. Now, the reason why it's dry is because as things obviously decompose, it generates heat, and the heat will evaporate any moisture that's in there. So that's why I've got that situation. But what I've decided I'm going to do is, obviously I need to water or get some water into this new bay here, just to keep it ticking over. It's not fully decomposed and it will continue to do so, but it's usable. But I want to introduce a bit of moisture into there. And so I've come up with a cunning plan, as Baldrick would say. I've never done this before, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be all right. So let's see. Now, recently I made a video about making up your own liquid feed for plants, you know, tomatoes, that kind of stuff. And I used dried pellets of sheep manure. Now, and then with that container, and you will notice, yes, I have got changed into shorts because it's bloody warm. So in this 5 litre container, I have got undiluted and it 1.5 pong of that liquid feed. Now that seems extreme. You might well be right, but because I want to add the moisture, I've also got, God, it does smell, another 5 litre container of ordinary water, which I'm just putting onto here. Now, there's a lot of straw still in this compost. So this compost is a mixture of horse manure. There's some compost from potted plants that we had. Ryder's come because she's desperate to know what that smell is. They're dirty animals, aren't they? There's eggshells, there's vegetable peelings, there's grass cuttings, there's hedge cuttings, there's leaves. There's a lot of stuff in here. All good stuff. And there's a lot of straw from the horse manure that I put in there as well. And the reason why I added the horse manure, sorry Ryder, was because I wanted to kick on with the temperatures. The nitrogen in the horse manure is going to fire it up along with the grass. So there we go, nice and wet. I'll crack on with this side. I think it's going to rain, but do you know what, it's so muggy. I've got 85% humidity here at the minute, 11 o'clock local time. If it rains, I really don't care. I might just put the camera inside, but we'll keep going, see what happens. And while I'm continuing with this, I'll let you look at my legs. Now, I'm getting there with the aid of the dog getting in the way. Let's just try and keep this as level as I can. Now, if you're watching this video, come on, boy, chances are you're interested in making your own compost. And if that's the case, I suggest you have a look at some more of the videos that I've done. It depends really on what level you are at as an individual. But when I got here to this new place 3 years ago, the first thing I tried to do, well, I did, but not on this scale, was I set up one of those plastic Dalek things and I started to make our compost. But there's a saying, when you move into a house, it takes 3 years to do it properly, to move in. You get to know the area, your living spaces, all that kind of thing, where you put things. And it's the same about the garden. And I really didn't know what I'd let myself in for, I suppose. But I did know that compost making was an important part of gardening, and I learnt that as a kid. Regular viewers are going to know that I'm a kid from the 1970s. Things were different back then. But we made our own compost. We made our own leaf mould. Unfortunately, at that time, my father still dug the ground. But now, we know better. But the thing is, if you can have your own compost, you're onto a winner. Doesn't matter how much space you've got. If you can create your own, or your own feeds to give to your plants, well, that's a good thing. Mainly because you know what's in it. With the recent antics going on in Ukraine, which is a dreadful situation, it's highlighted mankind's reliance on chemicals and fertilizers, and the price of it has gone up like crazy, astronomical, and that in turn has led to a demand increase in composts, and of course they've gone up in price as well, not only because for the demand of the material, but also the energy required to make it. So like I say, if you can make your own, I'm out of breath, it's better than going to a gym. If you can make your own, you're onto a winner. So the idea of all of this, growing the garden, but also wanting to grow the YouTube channel, is to try and show that it can be done. So if you haven't already subscribed, it'd be great if you would, please. I'd be very appreciative of that. I'm not going to make fortunes out of YouTube, that's not the point. But the more people that subscribe and like and comment, the more YouTube show it to other people, and so the message gets out there. Now, so as you know, we're no dig and we're chemical free, and the idea of making our compost, apart from saving a huge amount of money, and I'm lucky to have the materials here to do it and the space, it's going to give me a good quality of fruit and vegetables without digging the ground. But I'm not following any one theory of gardening, but predominantly, yes, it's no dig, and yes, it's chemical free. I'm not using the word organic really, because it doesn't, no one gardening set of principles is perfect, and every single person is different. It's based on location, climate, which is part of the location obviously, and what people want to grow ultimately. But the fundamentals are there, and my theory behind of compost, using compost, is that we're feeding the soil, we're not feeding the plants. There is a difference. But also one thing to bear in mind about compost, as I pick you up to show you my progress, is that it continues to decompose. That's what it is. And so although you do put compost down on the ground, if you're doing it for the first year or 2 years, maybe 3, you may need to supplement your plants with an additional feed. And as I've said previously in the video already, that mixture that I put on, there's a recipe on the channel that shows you how you can make your own. But it doesn't have to be with the sheep manure that I used. You can use nettles, grass clippings, cuttings, you know what I mean. Anything like that, steeping them in water. Look at that, good, isn't it? As much as you want really. So now this is going to continue to decompose. One of my videos about turbocharging your compost heap was about turning it, which introduced more air and will fire it up all over again. Now it may well be that happens here, and I will put a thermometer in here just to see if that happens. If it doesn't, then I know it's okay. If it does, well, I won't be too bothered about it. And I'm getting to the end of this base here now, I'm going to take a bit more out of here, but I'm going to leave the core at the bottom here, because there's microactivity in there. And so it's going to start this heap when I move it across. So again, this will be turned, and I'll do the same principle all over again. So I'm going to continue cracking on. And I've also made a decision, and that is that if it does rain, I don't care, because I'm already wet with the sweat. But not that you probably wanted to know that. Anyway, I'm going to get on with this, and we'll see how it looks when I've finished. There we have it then. I've taken out this bay here, and I've turned it into the bay there. We'll get a closer look in a second for that. And as I was saying, what I'm going to do is leave this layer here, and then we're going to draw the old green electrical door that we had when we first came here across to the front of this like it was before, and then we will turn this compost in here, or the start of it, into this bay here, and by using what's already there, it's going to kickstart it. There's a lot of green material in here, and I will be mixing it with layers of sawdust. So we've got that at the moment. There's a lot of carbon in there already from the straw, from the horse manure residues, which is fine. So this green material can go on the top, and then when I get to a certain point, I will then put a layer of sawdust from the local sawmill. So it's untreated woods that they use there, so I'm okay with chemicals. Continue layering it up and get it as high as I possibly can. And so basically this particular bay was to the top, and it's taken 9 months to produce, it says without falling over, all of this. Now that's quite a bit. That's going to be enough for me for this year, or for next growing season, and I'll be applying that about 25 centimeters, 25 mil, which is about an inch, all the way over my no-dig beds for vegetables. I popped on a little roof, and this is another bit of recycling. So this was some, I don't know what you call it, fencing, I don't know, that was at the front of the house when we first came, which was a kind of a terrace type thing, an open terrace, and they used it to keep the dogs in. Anyway, that's now our conservatory type place, if you like, front of the house. So I've kept that. It's a hideous red colour. I can't get rid of the colour. I've just popped it on there as a roof. Now it's not watertight, but that's okay. I need a bit of moisture in there. And now here's the experiment. So we have the thermometer for the compost. I'm curious, will it generate any heat? Well, let's have a look. We'll pop him in now. Let's see, let's get right in there. Being attacked by a bee. Okay, so our reading is 80 degrees Fahrenheit, just below. So it's not saying that it's active. So we'll leave that for 7 days. I'll check it daily anyway, but I won't make a video about it, obviously, unless I get to 140, and then in which case that is news, but I don't think I will. But looking in there, it's pretty good. Like I say, it's not shop bought quality. There's lots of bits in there, even a bit of old cardboard there, look. So we'll, as we use it, obviously if I come across something majorly large, I can take it out and put it back into the composting process. So the whole point of this, from start to finish, has taken me between 9 and 10 months to generate a waste that started in there, that went into here, and then finally went in there. So it's been turned once, and once only. So when you hear stories about having to turn your compost and how often you've got to do it and all this kind of stuff, you don't need to. Look, I've just shown you. You really don't need to. If you're worried about your compost, one thing you want to check, does it smell? If it stinks, there's something wrong. You know, but if it doesn't smell, and this does not smell, what smells is that sheep manure that I put in there as a liquid. But anyway, it's not that bad now. But if your compost smells, then there is something wrong. And yeah, you will need to get some air into it and turn it and whatever. But in the main, there you go. I've gone from there to there to there in less than 12 months, in less than 1 year. So, and I've turned it, like I say, twice. If you've got any questions about compost, I'd be more than happy to answer them. So leave me a comment below and I will come back to you with anything, any queries that you might have. But for the meantime, I really do hope you found that of interest, and I look forward to catching up with you very soon. In the meantime, take care of yourselves.